Hey Wade,
Hi, Sam. Thanks for having me.
you bet. It's so wonderful to have you on here, and it's going to be a fun conversation today. So I'm really excited about talking about this way of communication and how leaders can use this to help their business overall and be more effective. So it'd be great.
Yeah, I get to work with a lot of leaders, sometimes behind closed doors, and I'm looking forward to helping them feel like they don't have to share all those stories or those scary things that's going on, privately, but publicly, because I think it endears people to them more regularly, especially the years I spent consulting with the military. Those leaders had a lot of tough stuff on their plate, and I'd say, why are you only telling me? Everybody needs to know these details, and that you're just as concerned and other things. So I love it when leaders kind of come out of the shadows. So hopefully we can talk about how to do that today.
Oh, sure, absolutely. So where are you located, Wade?
I'm in Maryland.
Uh,
So my wife is a marine biologist, and she came down here to the Baltimore Aquarium in 2002, and we've been here ever since. So lots to be thankful for. I got to volunteer with her there. It's such a beautiful aquarium if you've ever been. And yeah, we love it here in Maryland. It's actually beautiful. I think it's in the mid 70s today and sunny and a little breezy. So fall has arrived, which is great.
That's awesome. Yeah, I remember when I first went to college, I was interested in marine biology, but back then there was hardly any jobs in it that you could get, and so it was so difficult. Now that we are more focused on the environment uh, and being on this planet longer, it's definitely a hot topic. So I'm glad to see that she's doing that.
Yeah, she's not doing as much marine biology anymore, but I think it's one of those things. Once you're a marine biologist, you're always a marine biologist. So we do a lot of trash cleanups in the waterways and on the streets near here. And I mean, just the stories we have of volunteering and rehabilitating animals there, it was really, really kind of cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so yeah, the getting ready for fall. Yeah. So and I met Howard. How is the where you're at right now? Is it start to cool down?
A little
I'm just
bit.
saying this. I'm saying cool down because I'm getting ready to go to Phoenix, and my sister just said they have a uh, hot one, and it's like 109 down there. So I'm like, oh man.
Shucks. No, it's definitely starting to change, and the days are getting shorter too.
Uh,
So, but it's nice. It's very cool and comfortable. I'm in Montclair, New Jersey. Wait.
Oh, small world. I grew up in Trenton.
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah.
I actually got into art school at Montclair University, and I just didn't go there. They didn't have enough financial aid, but we almost would have been neighbors.
Oh, that's cool. I have a niece that's in down in Maryland, and we've been wanting to go visit. So may pick your brain as to things to do around College Park.
Yeah, it's a busy area down there, but College Park has had a lot of great growth in their cyber world too. I've read.
all
What is
right.
your
Well,
most? Yeah, sorry.
oh, I'm sorry. We're just at the top of the hour, so we got to get things kicked off here. So I'm going to go ahead and start the multicast, and Jules can take over. So just and actually, if you just give me 1 second here, I'm going to fix
I have to
things
keep
up.
it tight, everyone, for Sam. I gotta reduce my my intro.
Yeah.
That's
Sorry.
good enough. Well, there's a lot to talk about, and so I sometimes I wish there was more time. But all right, everyone.
Just one moment. I'm sorry. I'm just having a technical difficulty here, so I need to make sure we're getting this.
Jules is ready to go.
I know she's all ready to go, and I don't have my act in place. So just 1 second as I get everything in order.
I always missed you.
Week I'm like, oh, it's coming. It's like the countdown's on. I know Sam's gonna share the screen any second.
Yeah. Just 1 second here.
Oh, good.
As I get organized, and just let me know if everybody's seeing the right stuff, because I messed up here. We all okay?
Well, good.
Yeah.
All right, great.
All right, good to go. All right, everyone. Welcome to the People Strategy Forum. Whether you are returning to us, maybe you've been here multiple times, or for the many years we've been running this, or maybe you're brand new, doesn't matter. We are just so happy to have you here on this forum, whether you're live with us on Zoom, or maybe you're coming to us through a different streaming platform, or maybe you're going to listen to this in your car through our podcast. We're just excited to have you all here. And just to give you a little bit of a rundown, my name is Jules. I help host the forum. I will be in the chat, just lingering there. You can write any questions, any feedback that you have for our speaker or anyone on our panel. So we do like to keep this discussion really conversational and really fun and interactive. So don't be afraid to share, get vulnerable, whatever you want to do, we encourage it. And we're really here to engage, energize, and elevate your employees and your company. So we do this, every week we have a nice panel. Oh, good timing, Sam, love that with the slides. So let me introduce you to everybody. We have Shah, who has gone from being in the corporate world in HR to becoming her own business, to becoming an entrepreneur and owning her own businesses. She's run many. She's currently running some right now, and career coaching as well. Howard works with Comp Team. He is a compensation advisor and HR strategist. Sumit, unfortunately, couldn't join us today, so hopefully we'll have him next week and I'll be able to give him his full intro as well. And we also have Wendy, who, by the way, just FYI, everyone, big announcement, she's going to make more effort to join us. And I'm sure if you're like me, you love her energy. She's always leading the conversation in a really fun way. So Wendy, if you don't know, she works with Comp Team as well in talent development. And I know I'm going to get some more info on that soon. She's going to update me with her new bio. I'm really excited to see that. And then, of course, we have Sam, who helps run the forum, and he is the founder and CEO of Comp Team. So that's our panel. If you have any questions for them, you want to connect with them, definitely let us know. But today is very exciting because we actually occasionally bring on some creatives. And, you know, if you've been to the forum, you know I'm a creative, so I love other creatives as well. We have Wade Forbes joining us today. He is an illustrator, a sketch note artist, graphic recorder, and co-founder of Redtail Communications, which he co-founded with his wife. And so it's a company that helps with voiceovers, illustrations, and they do some coaching as well. And what I love about his story, we were getting the rundown before we went live, is that he was actually working in government contracting and decided during the pandemic, you know what? I'm out of here. I'm going to go be an artist. And I think that's just so brave and such an awesome thing. And he's been doing great. He's been sharing some of his illustrations. And we're really going to be talking about how illustrations can bring so much value. So that's why today's topic is Draw for Hope. So welcome, Wade. We're excited to have you here. Thanks for spending some time with us.
Thank you, Jules. I wish I was as comfortable in front of the camera as you are. You know, we'll talk a little bit about it later, but I'm typically behind the scenes drawing this conversation. I'm never on camera, so I want to have as much energy as you do.
But I know your wife's a voiceover artist, so it's like a good match.
Yep. This is her microphone, so I'm going to try not to, blare anybody out because I'm not used to this. But thanks again for having me.
You bet. So Wade, tell us a little bit about your journey. I'd love to hear about. I mean, we as Jules gave us a little bit of background about your recent history, but tell me how did you get into art and how was it inspired and how did you develop that into helping the people that you help today?
So I bet a lot of people in the audience can relate to this. I was a very creative kid. I was drawing constantly on everything, and I got to college as an art major, and there wasn't a lot of the right messaging coming from my classes. I was learning great techniques, but not what would I do with it out in the real world? And like many artists, I got really scared and I completely shifted gears and found myself in defense contracting, where I was literally hired to disrupt the military in their thinking and their processes and their patterns as somebody who'd never been in the military, despite my high and tight haircut, which is kind of funny. I get accused of being in the military a lot, but really, imagine an entire career where you were convincing yourself you had to be somebody else every single day. And when my bosses literally no longer had time to read what I wrote in the types of papers I was writing to disrupt some of the planning and the strategy that I was working with, I started drawing out these conversations. And at first I was doing it really clumsily, and I would, sometimes have a really good drawing and then some really neat conversation around it. And then in late 2018, I discovered there's a whole industry dedicated to it, and it's called graphic recording and sketchnoting. So for anybody who's ever been at a live event and you have somebody drawing on the side on a huge sheet of paper, that's graphic recording where you're drawing live in the room, and people can literally see their talking points getting up on the sheet. And it's very exciting. It's very engaging. And then something that I also do is called sketchnoting, where I draw quietly and privately here on my table in front of me, and then it's something I can reveal to you later. So that's the only difference between sketchnoting and graphic recording. One's really big and live, and one's more private and smaller, and something you can share later. But I mean, I had to give myself permission to be an artist. I was so nervous by being a creative in a very technical, engineered world, especially in defense contracting, where they identify you as a labor category, you have a statement of work and a period of performance, very rigid, whereas art is very free flowy. So I shifted from traditional employment into freelance as an entrepreneur, and I was still doing a little work there. And then right when the pandemic hit, I literally couldn't go back to work, Sam. I mean, they said, Wade, you're a subcontractor, you can't go. And I said to my wife, Megan, this is our chance. This is Redtail. We're going to start. And I had clients that needed their content brought to life. I got to illustrate a few books. I had a woman who worked with Brene Brown and Daring to Lead, who said, Wade, can you illustrate some of the content for some delivery I'm doing? And I said, holy cow, that's an awesome first project. And I was just really fortunate to find people who wanted to see their work through pictures after an entire 20 years of believing that that wasn't possible. And I think one of the big takeaways that I found was, if you want to do something, you have to be around those people. And if you're around the people that are doing the opposite, you're never going to find your way out. And Shar, I'd want to hear from you too about that, because you've started and run your own companies. But when I sat with all these other people in these cubicles, how could I be an artist? It was just kind of a sideshow. It was something cute drawing with these markers. So
yeah, well, I do have a couple comments about this whole topic, because I worked well over 25 years in corporate HR, and but underneath it all, I had a hidden artist in me, and so when I left the quote typical corporate position, I did contracting, etc. But I wanted to pursue something artistic. Now, I do watercolor and various art today, in addition to all my other fun ventures. But I have to say that I've really reflected over my career, and I've been a very creative HR person. Some of my creativity, I think, has been well received. Some of my creativity has probably not been well received. But I do believe that creativity in the workplace is so vital. So it comes out in all different ways. And so I can give you many examples, but I think it's so important. Also, I have gone through a lot of those corporate sessions where you're talking about the illustration while you're doing your strategic planning, helping groups of professionals visualize the future and strategy. And wow, what an impactful way to promote conversation, bring light and visualization so people can kind of think about what those ideas are bringing forward. And I think it's just fantastic that you're doing such a great position, because that's exciting.
thank you. Yeah, my first few times doing it, I was scared to death. And then I had to remember what I didn't want to do is just be somebody who was drawing out exactly what I heard and then just walked away. And that's okay. That's called live scribing, where you just hold the space and you honor it for the participants. And what I really wanted to do was, how do I bring in that disruptive thinking and my artistic skill set and help people, see what's being said, but what's not being said? Or, hey, we had a lot of potential right here, but you might have missed it when you moved on here too quickly. And so I started calling myself a thinker who draws. I'm not just a consultant, and I'm not just an artist. I'm somebody that can listen to a group for 8 or 9 hours and then provide some reflection and give people something that they could chew on later. So I'm happy to hear that you've experienced it, because it's still not mainstream. People know it's out there. They've seen it done and like, oh, that's so awesome. I saw this, hand that was doing that once, but it's only once or twice, not every week or every month. And I think more teams that have it might experience some of the success you've had.
Mm-hmm. Well, I just also want to mention, when you were describing some of the pictures behind you there's an author. I'm going to promote an author here. Her name's Liz Ryan. She actually wrote the book Reinvention Roadmap. It's about career transformation. And her book has wonderful illustrations, wonderful illustrations about how to revive your mojo when you're trying to transform your career. What is a roadmap? So there's beautiful, colorful visualizations of what a roadmap is. So I was thinking, man, I could probably draw my own pictures, but I could probably hire someone like you that could help me illustrate, because I do career coaching and various strategic type of processes. Someone like you could really be beneficial in that regard.
So I've met more coaches in the last 2.5 years than I ever knew existed. And one of the dreams I have to offer a coaching session is to draw the very first discovery session and the words that are used and the stories that is being told. And then 6 to 9 months later, what are the words being used and what's the story being told? So you might have Eeyore under a weeping willow in the first session, but then you've got Pooh on the mountaintop, 6, 9 months down the line, where people are celebrating that ability to really grasp new things. And what does that look like in pictures? I think it'd be really beautiful. So one day there's going to be a coach and a client who says, yeah, that's it. We need that. Let's try it. And I think it could reveal some really cool things.
Oh, I think that's better than even a visualization board that a lot of people do. I think that's very unique and very customized.
Awesome.
Yeah, we could use that for our client cases.
Well, so I'm glad you said that. One of the things that I've had to do coming out of the intelligence community in the Department of Defense is some of the sessions I draw in, is non-attribution. And so what some of my clients want to make sure is, hey, don't reveal too much, or don't quote me on that, Wade. But what happens when you see it coming to life is you can really sit with it, and you can study a sheet and say, is this who we want to be? Is this what we want to say? Is this what I ask my clients a lot is, what do you want to be known for? And if they see something and it seems a little, I'm not sure how I feel about that, sit with it for a while. Some of my clients take my sheets and they use it for recruiting. They put it in the hallways in their buildings, and they say, this is a little bit about who we are, and this is what it's like to work here, and this is the fun that we have. That's better than sitting someone in front of 6 hours of PowerPoint slides on a video and telling them to read the corporate handbook with some brochures, because we know onboarding right now has got to change to really help people feel welcomed and embraced by new organizations, with the competition for talent and other things like you all probably experience.
Love it.
Yeah.
I mean, a 300-page book is not exciting.
It's been done. We gotta look at some other ways, right?
Actually, Wade, I love this group already. We're diving into some really good questions. So if I can jump in with a question for you. So what has been one of your most influential contributions to the collaboration of a team utilizing your artistic approach?
Oh, great question, Jules. So
thank Renee, not me. I didn't make that up. She
right.
for it.
Oh, thank. Oh, Renee gave me an underhand toss in the chat. Well done. Okay, so one of my greatest contributions that I'm really proud of, I was working with the software team, and they basically took the back end processes for the clients that they had, and they condensed it from 26 steps to, I think, down to 14. And as I got to know the team and they wanted me to visualize it, they kept describing that they had done the Army 10 miler, that one of the team members was living in 5 different cities in the next 2 years with his girlfriend to decide where they wanted to settle down. Another one was surfing every beach on the West Coast. And I threw my hands up in the meeting and I said, stop. How do we pass on your chill? And they kind of sat back and said, what do you mean? And I said, you've taken all these steps and these dings and alert out of this software that drives people absolutely bonkers, and put it into something so concise that now people can actually enjoy the things that you just told me about. You didn't tell me about all your years in development and software. You told me about your dreams. How many of your clients want to have those dreams? If you give them back that many hours in a day, you shouldn't be giving them back more hours so they can work harder. You should be giving them back hours so that they can live their life. And it was an emotional event. It was a group of men, and we started talking about, vulnerability and what we would do with that extra time and what we would be bringing forward in our careers. And a few of the people on that team, believe it or not, have moved on to start following some of those dreams. They're not all still working in the same place. The software lives on and still works for the clients, obviously. But that's that's an outcome too, right? If we go into this artistic process and you work with somebody who's creative and they can reveal things, you should be okay with what's revealed. It's not always going to be what you thought it was. And that's the exciting part about life. So that was a really big deal for me because that happened probably a year and a half ago. And I've kept in touch with the team, and I've just really admired them because they never wavered. They said, we want to develop something that's better. I drew an illustration for them of a man who was losing his hair like me, staring down at a screen with every alert possible around his head and just, kind of dazing out and staring off into space. And it was very sad. And I said, I wanted to draw it to stop the scroll. And one of the teammates says, I think this is too harsh. And another teammate said, yeah, but what if we save people's lives? Like, that's not an existence that we want. If I said to everybody on this panel and everybody in your audience, hey, good news, I've got a software you can use. It's going to ding you all day, every day, even on the weekends, even on vacation, you'd leave the chat. You wouldn't want to be in here. So this team actually took their lifestyle and tried to pass it along to their clients. And I just thought that was really powerful. And they hadn't pieced those things together. And that's where the thinker who draws kind of came in, because I was drawing it out so I could illustrate and visualize these things for them. But then I was able to stop and say, I've listened to you guys for a few hours. What about this? And they were open to it. And I think that vulnerability that I try to bring as an artist by maybe drawing something that doesn't turn out exactly the way I want it the first try, help somebody else feel like they can say something and not get it right on the first try. And that's not going to be damning to their career or mess up the conversation or impact the results, but actually bring us closer together.
It's a great points there, Wade. So I'd love to hear a little bit more, because I know that we're talking about hope. And so can you tell us a little bit more about how your approach and for business and for individuals bring hope into more, to make it an action word? Because right now we think hope as just an emotion, right?
So thank you, Sam. For those of you that can see it in our broadcast but can't, behind me are probably 90 Post-it notes that are all illustrated, and they have different quotes that I've drawn and come up with during the pandemic. And I'll tell you, when I was still in my defense contracting job, I'd walk into a coffee shop every day and everybody was late for a meeting. Everybody was treating the employees like crap. They were annoyed. They were frustrated. They weren't kind. There was no please and thank you. And I was overwhelmed by it. And I said, what could I do to change the conversation here? So I started drawing a quote on a little Post-it note and passing my refillable mug across the counter and asking for my medium coffee with cream and sugar and a shot of espresso. And the 7 employees working there would stop what they were doing. They would smile. They would talk about their dreams. They would tell me stories that they never dreamt to be working in a coffee shop. One of them was a single mom putting herself through school. Another employee had moved home to be with a mom who was dying. And those people that were treating him so poorly just looked at them like they weren't big enough to be there. They were too important. And so something beautiful happened after they filled up the wall in the back room. They started putting the quotes on the outsides of the machines. So instead of looking at boring stainless steel, you saw these inspirational messages as you slowly worked your way down the counter to pick up your hot or cold drink. And then bam, the pandemic hits. And I am scared out of my mind, Sam. I said, there's so much uncertainty. You'd go to do pickup at a restaurant and you thought the apocalypse was waiting for you outside. Everywhere you looked, you were so scared and worried and uncertain. And I said, what can I do right now in this moment? And I said, I can't solve all the problems, but I can spread hope. And I started drawing these Post-it notes. And I've drawn nearly 700 since the beginning of the pandemic, maybe 800. And what it is if this group right now had to list all the ways things could go wrong in the world, our list would be awesome. It'd be so long, 200-300 items. But what if we had to list all the ways things could go right? So when I'm working with my clients, there's a lot of jokes, there's a lot of sarcasm, there's a lot of people that are out there that are happy to tell you the ways things could go wrong. But when you look at somebody and you give them permission, you say, you can tell me how things can get better. That's hope. So Jane Goodall's book that I've been reading over the last few months, just so I can absorb it chapter by chapter, it's called The Book of Hope, A Guide to Trying Times. She does something really beautiful in it. A lot of people look at the future with something bad and they isolate it. And what she does is she keeps it connected to the communities and to the organizations that she works with. So instead of looking at deforestation like it's just an isolated problem, she looks at the young women in those villages that if they can spend more time at school instead of having to take a week off every month for their menstrual cycle and there's no doors on the bathroom and they don't have access to feminine napkins, what if she could answer those problems, keep those girls in school longer, and then they become entrepreneurs that sell trees back to their village and they start to see what happens when the environment is booming again. She didn't focus on the fact that the villages or that forests are being destroyed. She focused on what are the things that she could do to help with that problem in small ways. And so Jane Goodall is the one who taught me what you said earlier, Sam, about hope as an action. It's not an emotion. So every single day, I could worry about the fact that I don't have a commute, or I could replace that time and make it my self-care. And I draw these for about an hour, and then I reflect on it and I post it on LinkedIn. And people have shared some really powerful stories with me just from seeing in their scrolling on social media something different, something uplifting, something that makes them feel good. And if you feel good, you can do good. But if you're just worried and you feel like the weight of the world is on your shoulders, you're not doing much of anything for anybody, including yourself. So hope for me was surrounding myself in art with these little Post-it notes. My entire office is filled with them on the wall. I've published a few journals, seasonal journals, so that people can interact with the quotes and reflect a little bit. But I had to do something that changed the story for me. And it wasn't one big day. It wasn't one big meeting. It was all these little things that add up to something great. This particular quote, abundance is not something we acquire, it is something we tune into. And I drew a little thermostat of somebody adjusting it to say abundance. And to me, when you see that in the morning, it just puts you into a different mode. And now the problem is, how do I get it off social media and into people's lives in different ways? Because when you're going to social media for inspiration, that's a trap, because you're going to find a lot of things there and you might find some inspiration, but you could find other things too that could weigh you down. That was a long answer to your question about hope, but it's important to me. I can keep going about more. The quote in the chat is by Wayne Dyer. It says, abundance is not something we acquire. It is something we tune into. So now fast forward to what people go through as entrepreneurs. Char, I'm sure you've had some stories about dark times, but if I can sit and draw one of these quotes on a day that I don't know how I'm going to pay a bill in a week, that helps me in that moment feel like I can't solve all the problems right in front of me right now, but I can do something that is going to make me feel good and hopefully spread hope out there too.
Mhm.
So
Yeah,
I'm a little bit all over the place.
No, it's so you're speaking with a group that had hope. When Sam and I were planning to do with our sponsor, the TMA method, we were going to meet with the CEO and founder of the TMA method, and everything got canceled obviously with the pandemic, all the travel, all the leadership session that we were going to offer. And so we had to have hope. So yeah, Sam and I put our head together with several other of his team and came up with this people strategies for him, and to provide maybe a more positive, meaningful hope going through these times. And I mean, I love those Post-it notes because yeah, we've had to have endurance, resilience, a positive mindset. I think some of those illustrations would have also been awesome to utilize throughout these sessions, in very positive ways. And also, I think that's why I started painting too, because, I was thinking, well, okay, I'm going to be moving into a new place. I guess better decorate this place by myself. So I better start joining a painting class and teach myself how to paint, because I knew I had that talent, but I didn't really use it. So it's exciting to try a new talent like painting or artistry or creativity. And even if you're not a good artist, I mean, that is actually one of my questions for you. What if you're not a good artist? What do you say to those people that are a little bit afraid to take a pen to a paper or color a picture? Because to me, I think it's very therapeutic. What would you say to people that maybe don't have that type of talent?
So I don't think any of us get anywhere without help from others. And there's a great influence in my short artistic career. Sunny Brown wrote a book called The Doodling Revolution. And she talks about how it was so natural for all of us to have crayons and markers in our hands as children and slowly systematically they get ripped out and a keyboard is thrown in front of us and we're supposed to solve the world's problems with hierarchical bullets. So there are courses that are out there on how you can develop a visual vocabulary. So different frameworks and models that you can draw that allow you to express your ideas creatively and actually make you a badass at the whiteboard. Right. So Sam had a whiteboard in our green room and I said, oh man, that whiteboard is just screaming for something on it. But it's a course called Drawing for Work through a company called Game Storming. We piloted it last summer. And it's fascinating to see how we're just not taught to go from point A to point B. Like, I'm not expecting someone to do portraits like this back here right out of the gate, but I'll tell you this. I started drawing these Post-it notes so I could get better at drawing female faces and flesh that wasn't mine as a white male. And so I was able to do this and take myself from just drawing what was familiar to me to unfamiliar just through a daily practice. So I'd say two things. I'd say you want to find a course that kind of gives you some nice introduction to, and somebody who makes you feel comfortable and inspires you. But two, you want to probably carry something around with you more regularly so that you can doodle more often and find out what your doodling style is. There are lettering classes out there. There's a woman, Heather Martinez, who is a great letterer who I've met in the graphic recording world. And when you can do your name in different letters and titles on your sheets and other things, there's just something really pleasing and satisfying to watch. I have a challenge for you, Char. I would say the next delivery you make to one of your clients, I would love for there to be watercolor on, like a watercolor scene with you writing some of the results around it. So let's say it's a nature scene, like a tree, and there's the tree is in different seasons. You know, what's in the fall and then the leaves fall, and then what's in the winter, and then what's in the spring as they grow, just writing it on your watercolor. And I guarantee that it's not going to be put on a shelf. It's going to be hung prominently by that individual or a group on a team. In the military, they have this thing that I understand why they're saying it, but it drives me crazy. They write something and they put it on the shelf. And you're kind of like, shouldn't it be in action and out in the world? So now imagine you give them a piece of artwork, one of your beautiful watercolors with a tree on it, and you've got all the findings or the strategic plan or the vision on something beautiful. They're going to refer to that regularly. So that's a challenge I would lay down for you as somebody.
Okay, well, I'm working on a proposal right now for yours truly, Sam, right now, Sam and Compton. So maybe I'll add a watercolor in there, Sam.
Sounds good. Yeah, that's right. But I want to revisit Wade on those pieces you're saying, because we were just in the past few sessions here in the People Strategy Forum, we had people that were talking about the importance of journaling and reflecting and understanding how to have gratitude and so forth. And it just seems like this art in itself, because it's so funny because I see my wife doodling in her journal. So it just seems like a natural place to start cultivating this ability and for greater impact.
So thank you, Sam, for that question. So there I was after I had, used this self-care method of drawing these quotes every day. I had a colleague suggest, what if you made a journal out of them? And I said, oh, that's really interesting. What do you mean? And they said, 90 days to write your way to spring. And I said, holy cow, 90 quotes, randomized, whatever they make you think about, you just go. And we created journals like this. So for those of you that can't see it, I'm holding up a journal of a bluebird. And this is the 90 days to write your way to summer journal. And it's on every single page is an illustrated quote that can help you think about different things. I'm just going to find one of my favorites and I'll show it up to the camera. This quote says, after all is said and done, a lot more will have been said than done. Where does that take you and your team? Right? So we have these leaders that are craving people to kind of contribute and bring something to the table. Imagine if you said on a Monday, everybody turn to page 78 of your journal, look at this quote, and let's talk about that at our strategy session on Thursday. What do we want to be? Where do we want to go? Who do we need to talk to? If your team is reflecting on those things, and there's a space in here to journal underneath each quote, so you've got blank space to draw and doodle, but then to write. I've had parents take these, rip the pages out, write notes to their children on the back, and send it to school with their kids. I've had people take these for grief when they lost a loved one during the pandemic, and in their family reflect on memories of that person and then share those stories with me. And you can't put a price on that. And that's the emotion I think that has been missing in a lot of our day-to-day activities that we have with people. We've forgotten to get to know them. I was on a podcast in June 2020, and I said, the small talk is actually the big talk. Like, that's my first big takeaway. Us getting to know each other in the green room of this podcast is so critical. We could have maybe handled the business of whatever business we had for the last 5 minutes of the hour-long meeting. Get to know each other, break bread, learn about who we are, what are our skill sets, make suggestions, offer mentoring. And then if there was something in that proposal we had to look at, we could check off 2 or 3 things and that's it. But the small talk is really the big talk, is what I've learned after being a professional listener for a few years. There's people craving that connection and those emotions, and they're just not getting it. And
Yeah.
so journaling is, I think, helped reveal that for a lot of people. So thank you for bringing those up.
Well, what you just said was really telling. A professional listener. So I just think about the situations where leaders are out there, they're trying to communicate a message. Managers are trying to talk effectively to their people. And sometimes, I mean, as we are all well aware, we may be trying to communicate a message, but that message is not getting across. So I can imagine how valuable your practice is in ensuring leaders know that they're being heard, ensuring managers are known that they're communicating the right message. I mean, as a professional listener, you can listen into those conversations, or perhaps listen to what a leader is planning on articulating to the company, and putting that into a picture, or so they can understand, how is this being received before I even do this? How is this being received? So have you done much of that work there, Wade?
Yeah, I've always been a very emotional and sensitive dude. And when I was younger, that was really difficult for me. I could express my emotions very easily. If there was something to cry about, I could cry about. And I was ostracized. That was not okay. Like, you were different. And now in the last 3 or 4 years, I'm really cool. And I'll tell you why. For all those years, I was just made to feel like that was not, that there was, that was going too far, that was too intimate or a little too revealing. And what we need now is that human connection, and we crave it. And so there's a few leaders that rely on me to give them that type of real talk, and that ability to express themselves and reveal, parts of them. But there's not a lot. And I kind of wish there was more, because right now that vulnerability is connecting those leaders to their employees in a really human way. I mean, I've done most of my defense contracting work, if I didn't mention it before, was in cybersecurity. And so this thing with humans and machines, where does the machine end and the human begin? And then where does the machine pick up again, is a really tough question for a lot of organizations to manage. And now you could say that about almost any organization. Who is Sam or Jules or Wade on social media, and where is that humanity in them? And I think a drawing brings that out. If I draw a portrait of you and a conversation you're having, and what are some of those themes that you want, or if I draw your silhouette and I fill you up with what makes you tick, and what are those qualities? I mean, I imagined your HR conversation a little while ago and how you help companies recruit. Imagine if you gave them a silhouette of an individual and they filled them up with the qualities and the skill sets that they needed, instead of these 16-page job descriptions that no human being could ever satisfy because those people don't exist. Like, that's a tough challenge, but it's like, what are those things that you could put in a silhouette of a person, something very visual and interactive, and they say, I think I could do that. And then you have a great conversation from it. So the leaders that I talk to, sometimes I try to give them permission and let themselves off the hook. Sometimes I help them try to find those messages when I listen to their conversations and say, here's what I heard you saying, but here's what I didn't hear you saying. But I'm gonna be honest. There's not a lot of leaders that are really in a good place that I'm interacting with. I'm not saying there's not good leaders. The ones that I'm interacting with that have the courage to kind of step out and be that authentic, vulnerable, emotional communicator. And so, when I stop listening and I get to talk, I try to do that for my clients to kind of give them permission and let them know it's going to be okay. They're not going to crumble to the ground and fade away. They're actually probably going to attract more people that are craving that.
Well, I have to tell you, I went to a hard rock concert last night at Red Rocks. And yeah, me, probably the oldest person there. And my fiance, Bruce. But I did see quite a bit of gray hair there. But I think that what was most fascinating to me was how creative our youth is. I mean, the most creative outfits that you would ever see, the craziest hair, the most unique hairstyles. And I know that a lot of us think, well, when we were in our youth, that's maybe the way we were, but I don't know. I venture to guess our younger generation is very creative these days. They're listening to all kinds of interesting music, all different types of genres. I think a lot of our employees these days want creative employers, and they don't want to go to an employer that everyone's sitting around in some stuffy suit and sitting behind a blank whiteboard. No offense. I think that I think our employees today want to walk into vibrant, colorful, interesting, thought-provoking environments. And so what wonderful way to do this than what you're offering.
Yeah, I think a lot of the issues, as you said, like managers will give marching orders, but not take time to really understand what are people hearing, what's going on in people's lives that may influence how they react to those marching orders. And it really requires managers to go a little bit further than they have or think they're allowed to go and understand their people. Everyone is different. Everyone's complex. It's the perfect example is what you talked about with service people. We forget that these are people. They're there to serve us in our thinking. And I want my coffee right now and I want it this way. Oh, they screwed up. Well, we don't know what's going on in their lives. And just by pausing a little bit and engaging in a conversation, you can flip the dial and change it so much. But it's just, I don't know, we're just so caught up in our lives and running around and following schedules, we don't pause.
Mm-hmm.
If it's funny you say that, there's another, Wendy and I are having this moment right now. There's another one of these conversations that we hope to have in November, but from the listening session.
November 9th.
November 9th.
Mark your calendars.
Diversity, equity, and inclusion. But one of the journals I produced this year, Howard, is called Pause. See? Pause. And it's on diversity. It's on diversity, equity, and inclusion. So imagine sitting in these meetings for hours with countless organizations talking about the importance of diversity, equity, and inclusion. The awareness is abundant. It is everywhere you look. Everybody has it. Hashtag, they have it. They have workshops, but you know what they have very little of is action, right? So if I sit down with you, Howard, and I talk to you for 9 hours about a particular topic, my expectation is that you're just going to change. But what if you could sit down with quotes that highlight these topics a little each day and reflect on them and then come back to those conversations? You need a place to be clumsy. You need a place to kind of not always get it 100% right, where you might get, you might get a C+ or a B-, but your point just there about needing to pause and think about those things, that's what some of this is about. I mean, you're singing my language here, because we're so busy, we're so fast, we're forgetting to connect with people, we're forgetting to pause. So I'm really glad you used that word, and it was great timing that I could even just throw up the journal there too. So thank you.
Good.
The other piece is that I would love to hear about your application of art in this medium is companies have to reiterate their vision and their mission, their what they're trying to accomplish on a regular basis, and it's easily forgotten and when it's done in words alone. Have you been charged, or can you see an application of your talents to articulate this in pictures in a way to where people can be more aligned with the mission and operate in that alignment every day?
Yes. So great segue for me. I was hired by a group in the Air Force, I won't say which one, to help them focus on mental health awareness, suicide prevention, and retention. So the decision by that leader was PowerPoints are not going to be it. They need pictures. They're, targeting an audience of anywhere from 22 to 27 years old, and visuals was going to have to win the day. And so if I can give you 4 sheets of what a conversation, for this Air Force leader on high connection, high trust is like, and for those of you that can't see it, I'm flashing very busy sheets and pictures of what that strategy is like, with hands touching and hands shaking, gripping one another. There's even a section in here about the happiest animal on earth is a goldfish because it has a 10-second memory, which is from Ted Lasso. And so people are going to remember that, and they're going to connect with it. If I say, Sam, good news, I've got an 80-slide PowerPoint version 23 on SharePoint. Can you just check it out? That's my vision and strategy. The chances of me actually remembering that are almost zero. So if I can give you a sheet that you can pause, that we talked about a moment ago, and reflect on and come back to and hang up at your desk, put out in the hall, you're going to come back to that. And what this is meant to do with the pictures is to put you right back in the moment. We're in such a busy world right now. We're going to have this conversation today. I'm going to come from this recording and draw it and share it back with your audience, but that's going to put us back in the moment 3 months from now. Hey, I remember that podcast. What were we talking about? Oh yeah, Wade drew a goldfish. Oh, the Ted Lasso moment. Oh yeah, he did that for the Air Force. Much easier than if I gave you a bulleted list of all the people that I was drawing for and why. So the visuals can put us back in these moments, and it can connect us in a place where there's a lot of, the attention economy, forget about it. All the things competing for our attention. The fact that you have the people in your audience right now that are here and tuned in, that's a win every week, because there's so many places we could be right now on a Wednesday. And so it's a credit to your group that you have a regular audience that can come here and get what they need from what you're offering. I'm thrilled to be a part of it, and it's very gracious that you do this.
Yeah, and we're glad to have you here, Wade. And thanks for bringing. These are the things that really make a difference in companies. These applications of things that are not typical, something like PowerPoint, and I know PowerPoint has been a great tool for over the year and generations of business and so forth. But Wendy, can you imagine, how would you apply Wade's talents in a training situation, in a class?
Yeah, I've been having kind of going back in my mind and thinking about this idea, of how, he scribes or graphically, draws the meeting in the training scenario, and kind of thinking as far back as I could as to the first time I saw something like that, and what an impression it made on me. And I actually remember the first one, and it was a Dan Pink.
Sorry, Wendy's having a conversation with a neighbor. She's on her front porch.
FedEx just showed up. They want to be part of the podcast.
Bring them in. These guys are important. They're bringing our packages to when we're all throughout COVID. They're heroes, right?
My dog loves them because they always feed him bones. They always bring him biscuits. Sorry. So I can actually remember the exact first sketch that I saw. And I think that just shows you the power of art, and storytelling. And then a more recent example was that, we were on a call last year with TMA method, which is a tool that we use at Comp Team to help teams and individuals and organizations to really do their best. And all these different people presented, and they were all awesome. But then the grand finale was a gentleman, Andreas Fritsch, and he had the camera like you have, Wade, and he started drawing and doing the meeting. And it was like the whole meeting just went to a whole nother level. And so anyways, those two things popped up in my mind as I was getting excited for today's forum and thinking about how we just get out of our box, and how little it takes to really elevate and energize the meeting and get people engaged, which is what this forum is all about.
So if I can, I want to hone in on a point you just made. One of the things I noticed during the pandemic, especially, is there's a lot of people that are waiting for somebody else to have the answer or to provide the next step or to tell people what to do. And when you draw out somebody's conversation, the confidence they get from seeing it. So what's funny is a lot of people say, oh, Wade, that was a great drawing. And I would say, wait a second, who was talking? I wasn't talking. These are not my ideas. This is your vision. This is your content. This is what you said coming to life. And that's a gift that you can give people. I mean, I say to my clients, where do I send these? I don't need them in my office. You need them in your office. You need to remember what you said to those people, how you inspired them, how you got them out of that situation and brought them something better. So I think, I mean, Wendy, you're right. It is a very, it's a power punch for people when they need to take that away. But what I love is that the common person can experience it. You don't have to be a CEO. You don't have to be the president. You can be anybody and see your content come to life. And that's, I think, one of the gifts that an artist can bring, because artists kind of know what the boundaries are and, you know, how to kind of get right up to the edge and even push past them sometimes. And that's one reason that the military relies on them in a lot of ways. Iron Man, believe it or not, was a vision in the 60s from an artist that was actually done at a military base where they had an exoskeleton put on a person and they could run through terrain with more weight on their back. But that came from the vision of an artist. And so without that connection between those two worlds that are totally different, you could miss some things. So I think it's great that you had that from Andres.
The other thing that I imagine, I mean, I'm just visualizing these different applications, because I know sometimes I go into a brainstorming session with a group of people, and all these ideas are flying, coming here and there, and then sometimes when you leave those, I mean, you feel pretty inspired, but you're like going, man, what do we talk about? There are so many things going on. You kind of lose the message, or lose the key points that were made. And I imagine that illustrating a session like that can be very valuable.
So it's interesting. I a lot of times I tell my clients, you know, when you're in the green room ahead of a session and they're really nervous, I say, take a deep breath. I've got your back. You don't have to rush off and take a note. You don't have to try and remember everything or type it up. I can actually write all those things down in real time, and you can put yourself back in the moment. Am I going to remember every single detail of the bulleted list? No. But am I going to put you back close enough to the topic or to, you know, that exchange or what somebody said that everybody really responded to? And I think that's where you have to kind of know when to call a pro. I think there's a lot of people that are taking notes in meetings, and that's a valuable service to provide. But who's inspiring you from that conversation? You know, I mean, if you just take the notes and you're not really looking at like, hey, there's so much potential there. Hey, that could be beautiful. Hey, that could change the future. That could change the way we work. That could change the way people come and work with us. Somebody has to be cheering you on. And that's where the hope comes in, because I'm not just, when I draw for a client and it kind of falls flat, I'm not really sure what to do next, because it depends on their ability or their willingness to see the future in a bright way. If they can't, the relationship kind of fizzles out. But if they can, we keep doing it, and we do it over and over and over again. I'm working with one client, and they help recruit independent talent and freelance for corporations across the United States, all Fortune 500 companies. And when I draw for them, they can start to see that it could get a little smoother, or that they could share ideas in a unique way. And these are competitors in some cases, and they all meet. And the facilitator is taking notes, but can also rely on me to give the group something back that's creative and a memory for them to share on their Slack channels and other things. So you are right. To help people remember, they need something special. I mean, very few people are memorizing things anymore. So you have to have something that puts you back in the moment, and a picture can do that.
Well, I'm really enjoying this conversation, Wade. Thank you so much. But the one thing that I do want to bring in is just acknowledge our sponsor, the TMA method. And we spoke about a little bit of this during the session and how we typically bring this in. But one of the big pieces about what the TMA method does is it helps us understand the ambitions and dreams and hopes of our new employees that are coming to the organization. And so we learn about where they want to go in their career and so forth. And I think this is another great application for your talents, Wade. I mean, as far as if we could really visualize where when our new employees come into the organization and about their hopes and dreams and what they would like to get out of the organization and how they would like to contribute and how they would like to move through and realize their future. I think that there's another place there that we can see the transformation, as we were talking about with Shar earlier, at the beginning and then checking in at regular intervals throughout the year, or maybe as years pass, to see how that vision has changed and what their experience is like. So yeah, I'm just so jazzed, Wade, just about your talents, and just thinking about how it can be used to bring happiness and bring organizational structure and clarity and better communication. I mean, and there's just so many things that we haven't given. I mean, art is so important in our lives. I mean, it takes up, right, one half of our side of our brain is more artistic than the other side, and we've been neglecting it. So this is something that we definitely need to give more attention to. Now, one thing before we get back to Wade, I just want to acknowledge our speaker for next week. We're going to be talking about learning and leadership by Patrick Coos. So he's going to come in and go through that in detail. I'm really excited about the conversation there. So please join us next week on the People Strategy Forum to listen about Patrick, from Patrick, and talking about learning and leadership. So back to you, Wade. I mean, I know we're reaching the top of the hour here, but I would love to hear more about how people can reach out to you and benefit from your services and so forth, and maybe get some guidance and learn about where you have these cool journals. Where do we find them?
So everything's local around here. I sell some of I do sell my stuff on Amazon, but they are printed locally here with a company called Trembling Giant. It's a dear friend who basically helps small businesses stay in business, which is amazing. He looks at our small little town and he says, if there's chain restaurants everywhere, you lose the personality. And so when I met him and saw what he was doing, I said, I'd love to print my journals with you. So Trembling Giant Marketing is where you can buy my journals. There are 7 of them. I've got seasonal journals for the people that want to see the quotes that are a lot from the pandemic. I've got a diversity, equity, and inclusion journal called Pause. And then we just finished one, To Here From There, exploring college and career. And it's to help students that are getting advice from all these different sources really silence the noise and listen to what they want to do and who are the people that can really help them. And, imagine if I had a really good person talking to me when I was that age, maybe I wouldn't have deviated from my artistic career and gone into something that was really stable, but didn't really fulfill me. I mean, could I keep doing that? Yeah. But was I happy every day? No. Something that you made me think of, I'm going to go back on you for a second, Sam. I drew the other day how to prioritize, and I drew this multi-armed woman that I'm showing on the screen.
Oh my God, I don't need that, Wade. Send that in. I'll pay whatever.
This is the conversation for how companies prioritize. And I was imagining when you talk to talent, people will sometimes give you a resume with 95 topics. Like I do 95 things. That's good and bad. If I could go, show somebody what they look like with octopus arms coming out of them, and then what do they look like with that one thing? Or those 2 things that are really amazing that they can bring to the organizations that you're trying to help find that talent. I think there's something artistic in there that could be used that would help people. But the way people can get in touch with me, the good news is I'm active on social media every day. If you follow me, you get a drawing every single day. It's my self-care that I share with my community because I believe that community needs hope more than ever. When you hire me, it's really simple. You can go to my website and just hit, hey, Wade, I'd love to draw with you and hear what you could bring to this session and bring it to life for us. The good news is sometimes people will give me 3 months notice. Sometimes they give me 3 days. I've been able to do both. I can do it remotely, which I like to let people know. They can save on travel costs. I can do it right here in this room, and I put a camera above me, and then they can see a cool time-lapse video with some neat music to just let people see the flow of their conversation. But I'm just a note to the entrepreneurs in the audience. I haven't spent a dime on advertising. I just do something I love every single day, and I tell people I'm doing it, and I share it on Instagram and on LinkedIn. I'm not on TikTok and all these other platforms because I can't sustain it. I just do what feels right and I share it. And I think that self-care is infectious and contagious, and more people want that. And so, if you're not commuting anymore and you have that extra time, what are you going to do with it? Don't just use it for work, use it for something you love and that makes you better. And I'm just really fortunate that I get to draw every single day and share it with people. And then they see me as top of mind and they say, Wade, can you draw for this meeting? So I could do a better job in my social media, Sam, to let people know that I draw for meetings because they see a lot of Post-it notes, but so far it's working well enough. So thanks again for reminding me to kind of promote myself, because that's hard for me to do sometimes. I'm not going to lie.
Well, it's been a wonderful conversation, Wade. I think we got a ton of value out of this, just in the application, and I think that it's reminding our leaders that are listening in about how important art is. Even if you're, in this structured organization, I mean, we are all human beings, and we relate to the art that's around us, and the beauty that's around us, and I think that's really what makes that emotional connection in humans. So thank you so much for sharing your expertise and your talents.
You're welcome. My challenge to you, Sam, is to have your whiteboard up next time with the drawing on it, just so that you're not too hard on yourself or criticizing yourself. I mean, that's what art does too, is we kind of give each other a hard time. We give ourselves a really hard time. Oh, that hand looks, or that eye is not the right.
Yeah.
No, just do it. And it gets easier over time. So maybe you can leave your whiteboard up and have an awesome doodle on there.
I got to do that. I've been criticized because, people will go, Sam, why are you sitting in front of your refrigerator? And then you got to put something on your whiteboard.
Big finger.
I'm looking forward to this.
Well, I see Howard's got some artwork back there, which I think is cool too. So
Yeah, that's my escape from spreadsheets.
yep.
That's right.
Support the arts. Thank you all so much. This is great. I've not done anything like this before. I really appreciate being invited on.
Great having you.
Wade, most importantly, because other people are asking, it's not just me. Where can we get the priority map with the lady? It looks so cool.
I have to.
Trembling
So
Giant, or is that somewhere separate?
Here's my hell. A lot of my stuff is proprietary, so I'm able to flash it, but I can't post it. But I think somebody just has to hire me and we can draw an original, I mean, maybe I'll do that. And, but to show what happens when we try to multitask, I'd love to draw it and make it an original for somebody. So it's special.
That sounds great. I think we can count on that, and wait for a few weeks and we'll have it on the People Strategy Forum and the Comp Team website.
Yeah, there you go.
That's right. I'll just draw this conversation. I'll have the octopus lady and you'll have it. So.
All right.
Well, we had a
Thank
lot of
you so
great
much.
feedback in the chat. Everyone's saying that it was amazing, a fantastic session. They love what you do. So I hope that's enough positive feedback to keep you going as well, enough good energy. And yeah, I think you inspired everybody in some way today. So thank you so much. This was awesome.
That means a lot. Thank you very much. It's been a tricky summer as a small business, and this really lifted my spirits. So thank you.
Great.
Thanks, Wade. See everybody else next week on the People Strategy Forum. Thank you so much for listening. All right. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.